I have these friends, Dan and Sheila. They're podcast hosts.
Welcome to Profiling Criminal Minds. I'm Dan.
And I'm Dr. Edmund.
And hopefully by now you've heard the great news that Criminal Minds season 17 obviously is what I meant to say there. Oh, no, it is 18, isn't it?
No, it's 18.
It's 18, oh my God. Well,
and it's been renewed.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Has had its release date announced. On the day we're recording this, the 8th of March, we are exactly 2 months away from the premiere on May 8th. So that's just 8 weeks to get caught up and rewatch all of Criminal Minds Evolution, which you were probably going to do anyway. So check that out. And yeah, they announced the season 4/season 19 renewal already.
Yes.
So fantastic.
Well, that means it's got to be great.
That's what I'm saying. They must be 100% confident with the season of television they just watched. And that makes me really excited for the season. And speaking of being excited for the new season, Breen Fraser, head writer of Criminal Minds and one of the showrunners, has graciously offered to do a Q&A with fan questions about the show. So sometime in the next 2 months leading up to the show, we are going to collect as many questions as we can, and we're going to do an interview with Breen where we pose your questions to him and give him a chance to answer them. So if you've got a question you've been meaning to ask, if there's something you'd really like to know about Criminal Minds, drop us a line at profilingcriminalminds@gmail.com. Obviously, we can't promise that everybody's questions are going to get asked. And I mean, while I would like as many questions as possible to be about the new seasons and Evolution, because, that's the show he's promoting, if there's something that you've been wondering forever and you think he might be able to answer, feel free to send it this way. We will be gathering up the questions. We're going to be posing it to him. And, hopefully you will get that itch scratched that you've always wondered about. There's some stuff we always wondered about that we got answered in the question and answers we've done with him. So now that you're getting the chance, hopefully the same thing happens for you. So as soon as possible, get those questions into profilingcriminalminds@gmail.com. We have not scheduled the actual Q&A session yet, so you've got a little bit of time, but as always, sooner is better than later. Is there something you're desperate to have answered, or do you feel like we know everything we need to know?
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, I'm sure there are things that I want to... I mean, the things that I want desperately to have answered aren't going to be answered on screen. On a podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to... ask your questions. Doesn't matter. Breen may not be willing to answer some of them.
And if he isn't, we'll cut that out and you'll never know that your question was asked.
Well,
of course we're going to do that. Come on.
Yeah.
We're not looking to jam anybody up.
No. And that's the whole point, right? Yeah. Is that we're not going to.
This isn't an interrogation. We have questions we want answered. Hopefully you do too. Send them on over.
And hopefully Breen will be able to answer most of them. Every now and then there's something.
Tragically, he wasn't there from the beginning, so we can't ask to what extent did original creator Jeff Davis or Ed Bernero aggressively decide to rip off the show Profiler? We're not in a position to ask that question.
No, because he wasn't there.
He doesn't know.
No, that's one of the funny things. We were always asking. We've been doing Profiler. Those of you who still watch all of that stuff,
listening to the Non-Criminal Minds episodes.
Yeah,
because let's just say that we're in season 1 now, right?
Yeah,
we are.
But our question, you've heard our question, what's going to happen? We probably haven't asked it yet.
Oh, no, of course.
But we will at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
And the question is, what's going to happen to this show
when it doesn't have Jack anymore?
When Jack. And what we found out...
It turns into Criminal Minds.
Turns into The funny thing is it turns into what I call a pale. It's not an imitation
well, it's
because
not an
it's
imitation
the first.
because it was first. But
it was first.
Well, what you'll hear in the first season is that Profiler, we believed, was the middle ground between Unsub and Criminal Minds. It was the middle state between those two shows. Because they started trying to do this profile-y thing with Unsub, and it didn't take off, and then Profiler lasted for a while, and then Criminal Minds is the one that nailed it. And when we said that, we had no idea how right we were.
Yeah,
we were so much more right than we thought.
We got to season 4 and went,
oh my God.
After the first 2 episodes.
So let's just
and then we've watched 4 more and going.
Come August, you're going to have some really interesting listening if you're interested in the development of TV shows about profiling.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's dig into some other stuff. This is a Sunday show after all. It was the State of the Union this week. We're not going to talk a ton about American politics this week.
Yeah.
Because once again, Trump backed off of the tariffs.
Well, it's what did Stephen Colbert call it? A psychodrama.
Well, someone made an interesting point, right? Which is, no, I mean, the crazy part is, and I mean, this might just be a conspiracy theory, but I'm going to tell you something. You can make a lot of money shorting the stock market.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So my question is Trump just doing a stock scam at this point? Fine, because he knows when he's going to announce that the tariffs are on, and he knows when he's going to call them off. And
he can't be accused of insider trading.
With those 2 pieces of information, you can make enormous amounts of money. And he literally, no one in Congress can be accused of insider trading, right?
No.
By law. And the president apparently can't commit a crime if it's part of his official acts.
Yeah, but the point is that you can't accuse him of insider trading because he's causing it.
Exactly.
Like he's the insider who's doing it. So he didn't get a tip from somebody else.
Well,
no, he's got cutouts.
He's got cutouts, and he's got Jared and Ivanka making the money, things like that. But I'm just saying, there's a chance that all of this tariff nonsense is just him manipulating the stock market to make money.
Now,
does he literally care that much about making money? He did a meme coin. A meme coin, which literally is a scam where people just hand you money for nothing.
Yeah. Look,
he did
what happens
and then his
is
wife
that
did one.
I mean, it is, everything is sort of the criminal element. Now you understand why Ukraine wanted to get rid of Russians, because this is what the Russians were doing. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that the Russians were doing. This is where all of this stuff is. A lot of it, I shouldn't say all of it. A lot of it.
Yes.
Yeah. A holy gangster state will do this kind of thing. Now, if this is what is happening, and as I say, it sounds more like a conspiracy theory. God only knows. Yeah. Somebody will take that who's sane.
Yeah. And start running down
the figures and the numbers and everything else, because you can do all of that, and there'll be a book, right?
5 years from now, where it turns out it was all just a scam.
To trade up and down.
Yeah.
Although I do think that it is more. I don't know that's sort of what to do. As I said, it is one of those things that you're going to go, oh, you could believe that one is true. Yeah, because he just likes money.
Yeah, it's the only thing that's ever motivated him.
Yeah, and it's like listening to Colbert going, well, yes, I mean, he's going to bankrupt the United States like he bankrupted all his other businesses, right? Because now everything's a business. Now, the thing is that Canada, I am very happy that Canada very quickly just went, oh, shit, we got too dependent. Now, those of us who were against the NAFTA treaty way back in the 80s,
yep,
when it was being
free
put
trade
forward
is what
and
that
trying
one
it.
was.
Free trade is what we called it.
Yeah, NAFTA was the 90s with Bill Clinton.
And there was a whole bunch of us that didn't like it in Canada. We wanted to block it.
We wanted to save our manufacturing sector.
Yeah, and all the rest of it, right? But it didn't happen, of course. And NAFTA, the free trade thing came because we already had an auto parts deal. Then that was rolled into free trade, which is what's causing all of the mess. And what I would say is that we are now being proven right. That integrating this economy, someday some idiot was going to become president and do this to us.
And use that as a lever against us. We created our own weak point.
Yeah. Now, so all of a sudden, because what went by was breaking down trade barriers, because people don't understand about trade barriers between provinces, but some of it is some of it's liquor and it's money. Okay, we understand that. And you can understand why people want to keep their money in their own province. And
of course,
and New Brunswick is famous for sometimes people will go on runs to Quebec to buy cheaper liquor.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back and there'll be somebody, an RCMP guy or a whatever, and they'll stop them and then they'll charge them $300 for going over and buying beer.
Exactly. Because that's the money, that's the extra money it costs to get French beer in New Brunswick. And I mean, literally, you can walk across the border between some of these places in New Brunswick.
The same. It's the Ottawa-Gatineau problem.
Gatineau situation, yeah.
So
who's going to police that border?
Yeah, nobody. And so what happens also is that, but it is silly thing. It's the things that have been halting some of this. Is we have different, for example, labor regulations.
Yeah.
In Ontario than you do in Alberta, than you do. How thick are the hard hats supposed to be?
Yeah.
What kind of shoes and how, in some places it's less, some places it's more.
Let's just say in Alberta, not a lot of people are going to be policing your ladder usage the way they are here.
Yeah. So we have all sorts of, and workman's compensation has to be, because that's a provincial thing. And so those would then have to be across the board. It's a very
there's a lot of difficult stuff to harmonize because it costs different amounts of money to build the same thing in different provinces. And so one province could ship it cheaper to another. And so we have trade restrictions. It's as simple as that.
So what's going to happen is that there's going to be, I don't know how it's going to work.
Well, the funny part is,
but they've already
started. There are more, before this ridiculous tariff nonsense started, there were more trade restrictions between any two Canadian provinces than there were between any part of Canada and the United States. And that's just true.
So what happens is that there are other things, and it's like safety regulations on toys, for example, and stuff between Canada and the United States. The United States has a very lax security system. And it's going to get worse now. So there's all sorts of reasons to just build our wall, figuratively speaking, and start trading east and west.
Yeah, because
instead of north and south.
We got a big enough country and we got enough resources that we can do that. Meanwhile, Americans are just going to keep trying to smuggle in fentanyl and guns because that's all America makes.
But I'm sitting here going, what do you mean? It's just somebody did talk about how much fentanyl actually came across the border.
That was the funniest thing. It's like the RCMP.
I mean, we did it last week, but somebody else.
I just love Customs tried to caught some people trying to bring 100 grams of fentanyl into the United States. And then, a week later, our CMB catches smugglers trying to move, 200 kilos of fentanyl into Canada from the United States.
From the United States.
You guys are the dealers. You're not the users when it comes to this, Canada.
Same thing with the guns. And
same thing with the guns.
If we could stop, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, because here's the point, right? Is that we have now gotten really pissed off.
Yeah.
And we know the drugs come from the United States.
Oh, yeah.
We know that the guns come from the United States. We don't have a single gun manufacturer in Canada.
We might have one.
We might have one.
Yeah,
Where, in Alberta?
Yeah, probably. Honestly, like, I know there used to be some in Toronto, but probably not anymore. But that's back in the past.
No, because they could just come in because you close your factories down. If you're making shotguns, they're not making anyway. But
they're
what
not
happens,
making these elaborate pistols here in Canada.
So as far as I'm concerned, if we're going to beef up our border, we're going to beef up our border to stop Americans bringing stuff in. And Americans constantly think that they can walk across the border with guns.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's just put the kibosh to that completely, because they do stop them, right?
Okay. And
every now and then.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is if you come from Texas, I'm going, okay, what's your first key that there might be a problem? Okay, the license plate is Texas.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll check
profiling, but maybe we'll check the Texans for guns. Who can say?
Well, no, but that's the way you do it.
Absolutely, it's the way you do it
at the border, because you can't stop every single car.
Yeah, absolutely.
So okay, Texas. So what are the chances this guy might have a gun somewhere in his car?
Yep.
Unless he's using it for hunting and he's going to a hunting lodge, he's usually flying in anyway, because that's where the hunting lodges are in Canada.
Absolutely. You generally have to fly into these places.
They're almost all fly-in. So, people, it is going to be interesting to see what happens. But we just get increasingly, this is stupid. Canadians have decided we are going to sit here and take this.
Here's the most beautiful thing that has happened out of all of this, right? So everybody loves the Chapman's Corporation. And if you're an American, you don't know about these guys. They make ice cream here in Canada.
Yes.
Right? They're the Canadian ice cream manufacturer. They are our Breyers, except they're not owned by a heartless multinational conglomerate. The way Breyers is. Yeah. And famously, this is 6 years back? Their factory burned down, right? And I don't know how it happened, don't know why it happened, who knows. But their factory burned down. It was going to take them months to get back up and running, making ice cream again. And the family, because it's family owned, said, we're just going to keep paying everybody's salaries for the 4 months until it's up and running again. Because they're an old-timey company that cares about the health of the company, not just the company's stock price. And so here's what they announced this week. Literally, I think it was yesterday. They're like, look, yes, we get some ingredients and machinery from America. We are currently currently actively searching out non-American ways to source any ingredient or device we need to continue operating. And this is the key part. For the next 9 months until 2026, we are guaranteeing no changes to the price of ice cream whatsoever.
Yes.
Even if the ingredients cost more, even if the parts cost more, for this whole year, we are not going to increase any prices. Because again, we all have to stand together. We're all in this together.
Yeah, ice cream. And by the way,
people are doing
they are, if you want lactose free, now here's the only problem. If you want sugar-free ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, also get lactose free ice cream. That's the one thing they've done. Yeah. So they have lactose free ice cream, and they have it in all of the flavors.
Oh, they have it in every flavor.
Possibly
they have ice cream sandwiches. They have ice cream bars. It is a wonderful company. Any kind of ice cream confection you want a drumstick. Chapman's makes drumsticks. Like any ice cream confection you want, Chapman will sell you. And they're just also a great bunch of people.
Yes. So, and I was looking at Murphy. By the way,
please
I'll ask you, because I haven't looked it up yet. So is Wayfair an American company?
The clothing company? Oh, no, furniture company.
Yeah.
No, I don't know where they're from. What'd they do?
Yeah, we'd have to check. No, I'd have to check, because I was just looking at Murphy beds.
Ah,
and because I need a new bed.
Right.
So I was looking at Murphy bets because I think I'm going to restructure my entire house.
Very smart.
And Wayfair came up with, I don't know how many, and they said they could get it here in a couple of days.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Like, you're going to have to check. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's from, because I was shocked, because to me, of course, IKEA should be selling. IKEA is a Swedish company, so we don't have any problems with Sweden.
No.
So
they should be
we're
selling
okay.
This stuff. Yeah.
It is it is a very peculiar sort of situation we all find ourselves in terms of trying to decide, okay, it's packaged in Canada.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with the integrated markets. Is like we ship a thing for here, but we package it from there, but we package it and resell it here. So it's not made in Canada, but a Canadian company is doing all of the legwork other than actually making the mattress. So what does that make it? You know, like I buy Mexican peppers, but sometimes those Mexican peppers get packaged in Texas, and now I can't buy it. It's all very confusing.
Yeah, it is. It is very strange, because we've all, I would say most of us, except for maybe these silly people who think that joining the United States would be a good idea. I think there's about 5% somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably all in Alberta.
Yeah.
But then that's where Americans went, because Alberta, it was the oil business. Yeah. And what happens though is that we're looking, like I went to Bulk Barn.
Yeah.
And they've actually stuck.
Which ones are Canadian on them?
Canadian things labels on certain places, right? But then I thought about, okay, where do they get their peanuts from?
Good question.
Yeah, because peanut butter, okay, you know, and this is another one of those silly problems. Okay, Jif is definitely just shipped from the States into Canada.
Yeah.
Kraft, which is an American company, makes peanut butter in Canada.
Yeah.
But where do they get their peanuts from? But but making the peanut butter, because it turns out Canada, of course, apparently invented peanut butter. I don't know. I can't believe that. I thought that was George Washington Carver.
George Washington Carver's doing it, but apparently it was here first. I know.
I don't know.
I'm as surprised as anybody.
I've seen this, and I'm going to have to follow up on it, of course. But that's Joe. Okay, so everybody, maybe we should put a link. Yes,
to the Joe video or Jeff.
It's now Jeff. Well, yes, there was a guy. The Molson beer.
It is going to take way too long to explain this. We'll just send people to the video. It was
you can watch the latest
ad campaign that was very iconic here in Canada in the 1990s.
Yeah,
and he's back, and thank heavens.
Well, the CBC actually, I guess, funded it all.
Well, I'm not surprised. He works.
Yeah, and I saw it after 8 hours. It didn't. The funny thing was, I was trying to search for it on my YouTube, sort of the app that's on my phone,
right?
And it didn't come up. It had only been up for 8 hours. I got it right away on YouTube.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I mean, it is just a new edition. It's an updated edition of the I Am Canadian
series of
commercial Molson's.
Well, and I'm sure there wasn't one commercial. There was so many commercials.
Yes.
That was years of the commercials.
Yeah, the Canadian thing. And what happens is, I'm sure for them to redo this like this, Molson must have just waived all.
Well, I'm sure. Like, you think Molson's going to complain about pro-Canadian sentiment? If it gets people to stop buying Coors, Molson's happy.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So if I drank beer anymore,
you would absolutely be buying Molson Canadian.
Yes.
Which, by the way, and the beer is literally called Molson Canadian.
Yeah, and Labatt's. And Labatt's is the other one.
Yeah, Labatt's is our other major
and
beer.
That's the one. That's the funny thing is, when I think Molson's and Labatt's are basically the two main beers, right? We've got a lot of now, but they always were. And then with free trade, we ended up with the influx of things like Coors, Budweiser. I don't know why anybody drinks Budweiser. I can't believe that anybody drinks Budweiser.
It's insane.
Because that was always the complaint when Canadians would go to the States, right? You couldn't get Canadian beer.
Yeah.
You know, the whiskeys,
American beer
everything
is
else.
Not strong, let's just say.
It's like water.
Yeah, it's like drinking water compared to Canadian beer. Like we have much higher alcohol content in our beers as a general.
For better or worse.
For better or for worse. I'm not saying it's always good things, but I will tell you it is a source of pride of Canadians that our beer is much better than American beer. Whether you drink beer or not, you still take pride in that fact.
Yeah. Anyway, never mind. I mean, it's
delightful that they came back, and honestly, everything that this is doing to unite Canadians, I'm happy about. I'm sad of the fact of it, but the effects of it are positive for our national identity and the country going forward. And it may keep Pierre Poilievre out of Parliament. So, out of Sussex Drive. So
that will be, I do not know that's happening
Drive,
tomorrow.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Tomorrow, like I was just listening, Peter Mansbridge has a show. He's our
newsreader.
He finally retired.
Yeah,
he was
very prominent
the anchor, prominent.
Yeah.
There was two, Lloyd Robertson and Peter Mansbridge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he has a show on Sirius XM now.
Yeah. What's he going to be talking about?
The Bridge. It's called The Bridge. Anyway, so he does it I guess every week. But anyway, I listened to it this morning and they were talking about the election tomorrow. Yeah. And what was going to happen afterwards. And I would assume we're going into an election pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. No, we'll be voting, I think, by the end of April.
Yeah, by the end of April, early May.
We'll be voting by the end of April, maybe early May.
Because there's no sense in calling Parliament back. We talked about this last week a little bit.
There would be no point. They would just vote it down and force the election. So why call them back?
Why call them back? So
just do the election.
And everybody's discussing where Mark Carney is going to run for a seat. And I was told that he was going to be, that David McGuinty was going to step down in his Ottawa seat.
That would be fantastic.
And that he would run in Ottawa, right?
Wow.
Now, okay, so that's what I had heard.
Right.
Along with all my connections.
Yeah.
But because there's rumors floating all over the place but this was a long time ago that they had been talking about running him in the Northwest Territories where he was born, running him in, and then that was scotched, and then it was Alberta. Well, I don't think he should run in Alberta either because Alberta has got two Liberals.
Yeah.
Chances of
getting a third Liberal seat in there, or you'd be making one of them give up their seat.
He's not going to get a third, or you'd make one of the ones who's already there leave.
And that's just a mess.
Whereas David McGuinty, who is our public safety minister right now, could step down and not run, and Mark Carney could run there.
And it's a guaranteed win.
It's a guaranteed win. And then David McGuinty could then become the ambassador to the United States.
That would be hilarious.
That's what I'd like to see.
Oh, I would love that. Oh, that would be fun.
I mean, it has to be something like it has to be really good.
Yeah.
To ask
to be worth him stepping down. But yeah, becoming an ambassador to the United States would be fantastic for him.
Yeah, and the other thing is, of course, they were, but they were talking, but they didn't talk about that. They talked about they think that he shouldn't be running in Ottawa, and I'm going,
why?
I don't know. But it turns out that Chantal Hébert, who is probably our preeminent Canadian French journalist.
Yeah.
For, I think she's probably retired now too. But so she comes on, once you're into politics, you never leave it.
That's just a fact.
Yeah. And she's of course, Francophone. And she said what surprised her, because Mark Carney's French is not very good yet.
Yeah.
It's getting better, but it's not very good. So I listened to both debates. I listened to the French debate. He kind of warmed up later on, and he made the odd mistake. And they all his fellow Canadians are, so you've got three other. Nobody's giving Poilievre or the NDP anything as far as they're concerned to suggest that even though there are four different people running for the leadership, that they are going to be enemies when it's all over.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. So, but she said, so normally if a leader doesn't speak French very well, there's a real problem in Quebec.
Yeah.
And she said that in Montreal that he was holding some kind of a rally, right, in Montreal. And she said she couldn't believe it. People were lined up in Montreal to see him.
That's fantastic.
And she said, and his French just isn't that good yet.
No, but I mean, this is how seriously people are taking this. We want to keep the conservatives out. So they want to see this guy who's got the best chance of doing it. It's as simple as that. Nobody wants the conservatives in power except for
anymore.
The Americans.
Well, except a bunch of there are still
ridiculous people in Alberta who want to be part of America.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sure I'm offending them by saying the things they feel.
They don't listen to us anyway.
They're not listening to us anyway. We ran them off talking about socialism 2 years ago.
Yeah, we did this whole thing. But it's an interesting thing that is happening in Canada. And I hate to say this, it's the weirdest thing, is that it reminds me the last time that I can say Canadians were kind of this united.
Yeah.
Is when Pierre was running in 1967.
Really?
Everybody got on the Pierre bandwagon. I couldn't believe it because I didn't like the man particularly. It's not or 64 or 65 or whatever. And understand that you still have this. This is what makes Canada so different. And I've said it before, but he is the one who, as the Minister of Justice said, the government has no place in the bedrooms of the nation.
Yep.
Flat out.
Mm-hmm.
And
he said we're going to stop persecuting gay people.
And that's it.
And that's it. Hard line.
And then after that, we set up the whole multiculturalism thing. So I can't remember when he came. I just remember that everybody, even in Sault Ste. Marie, like everybody was, and I'm going, but he got in. I don't know how big his majority was. I don't remember. Mulroney probably had a bigger majority, but he got almost all of Quebec because he was from Quebec. He was from the mining. He was from the Eastern Townships. His French was from the ground up, like so many Irish who had descended from the Irish who ended up in Quebec.
Basically, what happened was they needed to build this giant canal in Quebec, and they carted in 50,000 Irishmen to build the thing, and the Irish people stayed.
Yeah.
And now they're all Francophone with Irish names.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It was very strange. I learned about it. I had never known about that, but they built this giant because they needed to create a giant, shipping industry in Montreal because of where it was located, because it's where the Ottawa River meets the Seaway, right? Yeah. So basically, this is going to be the hub for all shipping, both in and out of Canada, right? Montreal is perfectly situated to do that because it's where the rivers meet. And so they needed to build these giant canals and this giant dock system. And they carted in so many Irish people, to do it, because they just didn't have enough local laborers. So they were just essentially offering people, surprisingly good money. And if you were in Ireland at the time, you really needed it. And everybody stayed, It's a fascinating part of Quebec history.
Yeah, it was good that you went to McGill.
Oh, yeah, obviously. I learned a huge amount about that city.
Yeah, just in terms of the history of Quebec and the rest of it.
Oh,
it is fascinating. We have a lot more fascinating history than most Canadians actually understand.
It's true.
It's just that it's more focused on, I guess, groups. And I think it's so different and the multiculturalism thing got pushed, but we had under the Liberal government and under Pierre and this idea that you could be Canadian and still maintain all of your cultural heritage. The thing that you have to understand is that we have laws. And that's all. You have to understand the legal basis, and a lot of the legal basis is was originally Christianity.
Yeah.
But then it just moved. We have royal commissions because we sit down as Canadians and we study everything before we decide. And then we come up with reports.
Yeah.
And, and then everybody talks about it for a year. And some of the stuff gets done, some of it doesn't get done. But, but any big social issue. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. We've got something that's going to divide the country. What do? Let's have a royal commission and see if we can't come up.
Every smart person in the country who knows about the subject weigh in on it.
Yeah, no.
And then sometimes they let Jordan Peterson weigh in on it, and they shouldn't do that. But sometimes they do.
Well, but what happens is, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
It all depends on who Jordan Peterson. I've never heard him on the CBC.
No. It's just they did one of those commissions on climate change, and he provided evidence. And I'm like, you're Jordan Peterson. What the hell are you doing providing evidence about climate change? Jesus Christ.
I've got a drive-by that I'm not going to make right now. Okay. So what happens is that, but basically, no. I mean, they go and talk to regular people.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing. Like the Burgess Commission, these commissions, they go around and they have meetings, like focus groups with regular people.
Yeah.
In all the different parts of the country. And this is part of what the government has done. Now, the Conservatives don't like that process as much as the Liberals. The Liberals are gung-ho on this.
Hate the concept of democracy.
Well,
the nature of being conservative is you have to be an authoritarian. And so you hate the concept of democracy.
Yeah.
You hate letting the people speak.
Yeah, whereas the Liberals are going, okay, we want to... Now, here's the difference. The Liberals go, we want to stay in power. And the only way to stay in power is to make the most number of people happy.
Yep.
The only way to make the most number of people happy is to figure out what are the commonalities that we can focus on that everybody agrees. Yeah. Trying to appeal to the greatest swath of people. And eventually that will break down.
Yep.
And social media has created a whole problem, because I still think, like, it's so funny. We're getting close to this change in leadership.
Yeah.
Right. At the Liberal Party. So Justin has, had his farewell on Friday. In fact, the bridge that I was listening to this morning, the thing is did Justin end up with a big win right at the end? And everybody would say yes. But there were a few polls done when he was more prominent.
Right.
And those polls, right, all of a sudden I'm going, yeah, people just don't like him. They've bought the social media crap.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, fine. But a lot of people, he was a little autocratic. A lot of people in the Liberal Party probably, and he was leftist as opposed to, he was left of center, and so we're going to end up.
Some things.
Yeah, on some things, not on everything, but okay. That's true. I'm not going to argue with you there, right? But that was where
we got legal
focused.
cause, so that's what counts.
Yeah, but that's where everybody focused.
No, you're absolutely right.
Everybody focused on that stuff. So, and I looked at some of those polls, and they were not as good as the polls a week before.
Right.
Because he was all of a sudden in the spotlight for about a week.
Yeah.
After last Friday.
Understandable.
But you could see kind of the polls, and just before that, so you could see the polls because the trade war was coming, and so he was more, and so then people, I guess, I don't know how the polls, they were funny, but the latest poll, the Liberals are back on top because we're 2 days away. Well, no, for us, they say they're going to announce the new leader at 5:00 tomorrow. Oof. Now, leadership races never do that in Canada. No. They never do. Something will go wrong, or they'll have to do a recount.
But by Monday, we're all going to know.
I don't know. We'll know sometime tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you just start off, because then Trudeau will definitely be gone. And the reins will have been turned over, and it will be up to the new leader to deal with some of these issues.
And he's got a pretty safe seat he can turn over to somebody else.
Well, if he's running for McGuinty.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting.
And I don't. Yes, and
oh no,
and
I mean Justin. Can turn over
Justin,
his seat.
yeah,
No,
yeah. Justin's.
It's not like he's going to stick around Parliament.
No, no. So
Yeah.
his
you
seat
have to
will,
also win a riding to be prime minister.
Yes.
And if you lose
Well, no,
the riding, somebody else hands it over theirs.
yeah. So then the
But you
question
can't be
is,
prime minister if you don't actually win a riding.
no, you can be. You are the leader, therefore you are the prime minister if you're in power. And then you have, but you can't sit in parliament. It's a very archaic sort of thing.
This is what I'm saying. Like, you can't really be prime minister if you don't have
because
a seat
you can't
parliament.
sit in parliament.
You're literally not allowed to go in there and sit in parliament.
You can go and sit in the gallery if you want.
Gallery. That would look great. The prime minister's up in the viewing gallery.
Gallery, yeah.
That would be insane.
Thumbs up, thumbs down, like Nero.
And so that's why when you lose your seat, but are prime minister, someone just hands you their seat. They the safest possible seat gets just handed to you. That's just the way it works.
Yeah. So
like, we've got reasons to be optimistic. The trade war is going to be scary, but we think we can withstand it. More importantly, like, seeing that we can't rely on America is for the best. We're on the side. People like, is the transatlantic alliance breaking down? Well, okay, America's about to betray NATO and, switch sides in the war, sure. But Canada's still on Ukraine's side. Canada.
I suspect Mexico still is too.
Of course.
Because as somebody said to whatever I was listening to, said, yeah, well, oh no, it had to be the bridge. It was a font.
Apparently it was a packed
info.
episode.
Packed episode, right? For an hour. It was a packed episode. But one of them was saying, well, yes, and Scheinbaum was very nice, and he thought but as it was Rob Russo, and he says, he's in The Economist. Anybody reads The Economist. And he just said, but it didn't do any good. The tariff still went on Mexico.
Yeah, of course.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, again, the important part is, and this is what you see with the
car companies
tariffs,
went to him and said, you know what you're doing to us?
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, well, because Trump will always, obey the money at the end of the day. We've talked about this before. But fundamentally, like, it might all just be a scam to pull a stock swindle. Who the hell knows with this guy? Like, all he does is cons, so maybe that's all this. Maybe that's all. Maybe
it's just another con. Yeah,
just
being a president is just another con.
Well, I mean, we know that being president is just a con for him because he doesn't care about the job. I mean, he likes murdering people, but he's a sicko. What do you want?
Do you know that they find that I guess yesterday they actually put somebody in South Carolina in front of a firing squad?
Jesus Christ, America. What is wrong with you? But last time we did one of these, we were shell-shocked by how unbelievably awful the world was. And it is unbelievably awful. I mean, for the love of God, Trump betrayed Ukraine and switched sides in a war and decided to be, pro-Russia.
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody's got to listen to Joe.
Yeah, no. But the point is that I'm getting at is this week, everything has gone so badly for Trump and his Republicans that, and so well for Canada that we are suddenly cautiously optimistic. It's kind of fantastic. Like, his State of the Union was a complete disaster.
Well, the only solution that I could say to the State of the Union is none of the Democrats should have shown up.
No, I don't think
they can.
If you show up, no, of course they shouldn't have shown up. A bunch of them didn't. No, what you should have done was had some paltry amount of people, show up, and then every 5 minutes somebody stands up and walks out for the whole thing. Yeah. That's what you do. Stands up and walks out for the whole thing, right? And then eventually one whole half of the place is empty.
Oh, that's what. Okay, yeah,
that's
and that
what
would
you
be,
should have done.
Yeah, just. Everybody, I mean,
this placard nonsense was insane. But
that was stupid.
It was insane, and Democrats are garbage at this stuff. They have no idea what they're doing.
No,
but we can get into why that is later.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that today, but we'll talk. We'll do another Sunday show and analyze the poor Democratic response to all of this.
How unbelievably bad they are.
At this. I don't know what's.
You've got the least popular president in history. How are you not leaning into that? Oh, well, we don't want to spook the money people. man, it's guillotine time. Have you not noticed that? The people are ready to start spooking the money people.
I don't know if they're quite ready. We don't have enough people yet. But the price of potato chips in the U.S. is going up.
Like, people
can't believe it.
You say that it's not guillotine time, yet people can't afford eggs.
I know.
Can't afford potato chips.
There are places it boggles
in New
my
York,
mind.
They are selling eggs by the egg.
By the egg.
You know, $1.50 an egg. Just here's one egg. You know, a deal. $4 for 3 eggs. This is what America is like now. You can't go, if Luigi's name gets mentioned anywhere in America, he gets cheered. People know. People are ready, okay? People are ready for a radical change in America, and Trump is just about, you know, again, stripping the copper wires out of the walls.
Well, it's true. There was one of the Wisconsin senators, I guess had to get up, and I guess he finally walked out, but
well, that's good.
He was just, he started to explain, you know, how much fraud and everything they're finding, and the Doge is so good, and he's doing the party line, and they were all at him.
Of course,
they were all screaming at him, and
nonsense.
This is
they haven't
the
found
Republicans.
Any fraud.
The Republicans are now at the point of well, they don't even know how to look at, because do you think that these people know how to do any research?
No,
I don't think so.
Again, they don't know how to do research. They don't do anything.
They don't care.
Anything.
So, and people are losing their jobs, and this is the trickle down effect, because there are government offices all the way by the, you know, and I mean, they've put
and Americans are so, you know, ignorant about this stuff. It was my favorite thing. Sam Seder, the news personality I like the most, did one of those debates where he had like 50, right-wing people trying to challenge him. And it's like, these people are so ill-informed that he had a guy tell him that it's like, both companies and government agencies get tax breaks for hiring non-white people. And that's why white people can't get a job now. And so he has to sit down and patiently explain to people that government agencies don't get tax breaks. Government agencies don't pay taxes. They're funded by taxes. That's what taxes are for.
Well, I listened to someone talking about the tariffs and tractors and used it, and I'm going, you don't understand how tariffs work, do you, at all, dear? No, that's not how it works. And if you've already bought it, you're not paying a tariff on it, something that you bought before the tariffs went in.
Oh, people just don't understand anything.
No,
it's just like you've had literally 30 years of people loudly saying the government can't create jobs. But, you know, then who exactly is Elon Musk firing if the government can't create jobs?
And where
Seems
are they
like
supposed to go and work?
A lot of jobs this whole time, and people actually relied on it, and entire cities are entirely dependent on the fact that government offices are there.
Yeah, it's like shipbuilding, you know.
Yeah,
and it's like having a military base in your state.
It's no different.
I cannot believe what they're doing to the VA, the Veterans Administration.
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
Well, they hate veterans, you know, because they're all cowards who didn't serve their country. So they hate veterans. Oh my God. Well, we'll get into that later. All right, now let's talk about something more positive before we go.
Yeah.
This is something we might end up watching depending how the season goes. But the new season of Daredevil started, right? And the first thing that happens in the show, and this is kind of crazy. So Daredevil's best friend gets murdered by Bullseye, and so he throws Bullseye off a roof trying to kill him, and he's so upset that he tried to murder somebody that he decides to stop being Daredevil. Then we fast forward a year. And this is where it gets interesting, because the plot of the show, like the main action of the first episode, is Kingpin runs for and wins the office of mayor of New York. So Kingpin is now mayor of New York. And at the same time, Matt Murdock is defending a guy who intervened in a subway assault. Like, a guy was being viciously beaten by two guys in the subway, and he intervened, and the victim ran off, and one of the attackers fell in front of a subway train. And then it turns out the attackers were cops who were viciously beating this guy and not identifying themselves. And so now this guy is being defended by Matt Murdock. And where it gets interesting is, in the second episode, he manages to track down the guy who was being beaten by the cops, because he finds out that, like, cops are coming to kill him. And he, has the guy run off and waits for the cops so he can find out, who's in on this. But when the cops get there, they decide they're going to murder this guy's attorney too. And so, Matt Murdock has to beat them up. But here's where it gets very interesting, because over on the Kingpin side of the story, his main obstacle is the fact that he thinks he's in charge of New York, but when everyone is responding is, well, that means you can't piss off the police union because they're the people who are actually in charge of this city. And it's entirely about his dealing with the police union for the second episode, while Matt is trying to track down the corrupt cops who were trying to railroad his client. The Kingpin is dealing with the corrupt police union. And I'm like, now, I don't know what the rest of the season's going to bring yet, but is this a show about Daredevil and Kingpin teaming up to take down the NYPD? Because if so, we'll do it. Have to cover this show.
Well, let me know when you've seen the whole thing.
If that winds up being what the show is about, because we might be doing a special episode about Daredevil of all things.
Of all things, I can't believe it. But yes, given our antipathy towards big policing,
yes.
This is not Mayberry anymore, guys.
Exactly. And so the interesting thing is, the way we know that they're quote-unquote bad cops...
Or profiler.
Yeah. The way we know that these are quote-unquote bad cops is that, and of course we know this, but Matt Murdock doesn't because he's blind, is we see under the sleeve of one of these cops who comes to kill him that he's got a Punisher tattoo. And it's referencing the real-world fact that, like, a huge amount of American cops are obsessed with the Punisher and, like, wanting to just kill people.
Wanting to do vigilante justice, even though they're
already cops. And I loved the Punisher as a kid. Who didn't? It was wonderful action, but the Punisher has some fascist undertones.
Well, so does Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd. But Judge Dredd is openly satirical in a way that the Punisher isn't.
No, that's true.
Yeah. There's a lot of satire in the Punisher. In Judge Dredd. The Punisher does not just... The Punisher does not have. And you can write great Punisher action stories, just like you could write great Mac Bolan stories, because Mac Bolan is what the Punisher is ripped off of. Right? It was never, like, subtle.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating about this is so many cops are obsessed with this idea, but, like, the whole point of the Punisher is he comes out of the 70s mindset that all the major cities are crumbling and the cops have stopped doing their job.
Yeah.
Like, if cops are doing their job, you don't need the Punisher.
Yeah.
And that's
it's like Gotham.
Point of the Punisher.
It's
exactly
the whole point of Gotham.
Like
you don't need Batman.
If the cops are any good at their job. And after George Floyd, what I said was, the only way you can do the Punisher now in this day and age is if it's a story about the Punisher, killing corrupt cops. Like, this is the only way. Given the way people feel about cops now, you can't have there be a pro-cop superhero. So unless the Punisher is killing corrupt cops, you can't make a Punisher story. And so now we got Daredevil, and you've got cops that are running a death squad that feel they're acting on the best, acting at the behest of the Punisher, and the Punisher's gonna be in the show, so... This might be a very interesting season of television.
Okay. So we will get around to it. You tell me, and then I'll watch it afterwards, and then we can agree.
Once the whole season's over. Exactly.
And speaking of New York.
Yes.
You know who has put his hat in the ring to be mayor of New York.
Jesus Christ. Can we be rid of this guy?
And he's leading in the polls.
Well, I think he's leading on name recognition. Jesus Christ. Who is this guy?
Well, if he gets up and actually actually tells the world that he's sorry and it was horrible what he did, and he has learned over his years
Which
in
would be
exile.
great, but I watched his, intro statement, which was just the cities are filled with dangerous, criminals and evil immigrants that we have to brutalize, and we have to get rid of trans people in public spaces. I'm like, just be a Republican, asshole.
Yes, don't try and tell me what are you doing. Well, he wants to get. I don't know. He's getting old.
Yeah, he's getting old. But
like, the problem is he's leading in the polls.
Mario would slap you across the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we got to remember, he only has to win. That's the overall polls. He only has to win the Democratic primary. So it's possible someone could swoop in and steal the Democratic primary.
Okay.
Because it's not like he's going to switch parties and then run as a Republican. No, like he would still have to, the overall polls are favoring him, and that's upsetting. But he does still have to win the Democratic primary, and there are a couple of other good candidates who might be able to take it. But what a disaster, this monster coming back. I'm sorry, Mario would slap him across the face.
But I still miss, I wish his brother hadn't.
Oh, no.
I wish Chris hadn't made such a mistake and
helped cover up his brother's infidelities and sexual harassment. Yeah, that would have been great if Chris Cuomo hadn't helped cover up for his brother supposed to being a newsman covering the story. Just say,
Just say
my brother is the subject
scum of the earth.
He's like, I'm not going to cover it. I'm taking, half the show off every night while people cover this scandal, because it wouldn't be ethical for me to cover my own brother. There. But to be
I know.
Unethical about it.
We've a long time.
And we're not going to get into that. All right.
Don't.
So I'm
sorry I brought it up.
No, it's fine. One last thing before we go. Right. I would like everyone to think about something that we're going to be covering. We're not going to be able to cover it yet, because all of the television we're watching now was largely written. Some shows are still being written and get written right up to the end, and there will always be rewrites because shows are still in production. But production is largely wrapping up in the next week or two for most TV shows, which air their finales in May, right? Because you'll remember, we can know this because when COVID happened, basically only the last episode or two of seasons of television didn't get shot.
Yeah.
As a general rule. So they've got 1 or 2 episodes left to shoot, and by and large, these episodes were written before Trump came into power.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be able to see the effect of this until the fall at the earliest. But here's something I want to put in people's heads, and watch this with us as we go through the rest of this year. We are now living in a world where the head of the FBI is an insane conspiracy theorist about who writes children's books about how he is a magical wizard who is the best friend of Donald Trump and helps save Donald Trump from evil people. Okay? That's the head of the FBI. And as a general rule, the head of the FBI can be anybody. It's usually just a lawyer that somebody puts in, and some managerial class. Sometimes a former U.S. attorney, sometimes someone from law enforcement, but not always. But as a general rule, the second in command, the deputy director, will be someone you promote from inside the FBI, because the director doesn't know how the FBI works, because he's from outside. So he has to say, this needs to get done. So you put someone from the FBI in, because they know how the agency works and they can make sure the work gets done. But instead of doing that, they put in Dan Bongino, a podcaster whose official public opinion is that the FBI is a 100% corrupt organization that needs to be broken up because they persecuted the January 6th people. These are the two men running the FBI. And there are 5 shows on television right now about the FBI. And my question is, do they all just pretend that isn't happening?
Will they be allowed?
Will the network allow them to address it, how would you address it?
Yeah, how do you address it?
How do you
I mean, I
address
can
the fact
actually
that
tell
the
you-
FBI is now in charge of political persecution of the president's enemies? That's what the FBI is for now. Now you can say, well, that's what it was always for. No, it got cleaned up after J. Edgar Hoover died. It wasn't completely cleaned up and it wasn't great, but it wasn't just the Gestapo anymore. And so the question is, now that they want to make it the Gestapo again, what does television do? That's what we're going to find out this fall.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing.
He wants to fire they're in the process of firing every single FBI agent who worked on a Trump case, which, spoiler alert, is a lot of FBI agents, because Trump is a pretty prolific criminal.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting. All right, so that's going to be that. Once again, we already said this at the top of the piece, but I'm going to remind you now. If you'd like to get a question to Breen Fraser to talk about the upcoming season of Criminal Minds Evolution, season 18 of Criminal Minds, season 3 of Criminal Minds Evolution, drop us line at profilingcriminalminds@gmail.com. I'm sure he would love to hear from you. And I know that because this was his idea. This wasn't our idea. This is something he encouraged us to do because he wants to hear from the fans. So please send us those questions at profilingcriminalminds@gmail.com. We're going to be back here on Thursday with episodes of Profiler. And now that we know what the schedule is, right? Now that we know what the schedule is for Criminal Minds returning, what's going to happen is we're going to be well into about halfway through season 2 of Profiler when Criminal Minds comes back. So the Thursday or Friday, whatever Criminal Minds comes back, we're going to call an audible depending. The May 8th is a what day of the week?
May 8th, Thursday. It's back on Thursday.
It's back on Thursday. So as we've been doing, we're going to be moving the Profiler. We're going to be moving Profiler to Tuesday, and we're going to be getting our episodes of Criminal Minds up on Fridays, right?
Yeah.
And
maybe
that
earlier.
is what we're going to be doing for
yeah.
we won't. There's no way, mechanically, there's no way we can get them up Thursday night. The show airs at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. We physically can't get. There's not enough time.
No, wasn't it always on the oh no, we get it a day late.
We get
That's
it a day
right.
late.
We
That's
get it
why.
a day
so we
late.
watch it Friday morning and then we immediately talk about it. No, it goes up on midnight Friday on Disney Plus. It's very frustrating in Canada. But the point is, and then once we get to the end of season 2 of Profiler, we're gonna pause Profiler until Criminal Minds season 18 is over. And then after Criminal Minds season 18 is over, Profiler season 3 is going to be back on Thursdays. So presumably there's 10 weeks. We haven't asked, but presumably there's 10 weeks of Criminal Minds season 18. Yeah. So expect that to go. I mean, they might do a 2-episode season finale or something. But the point is, expect Criminal Minds season 18 to end in July. And then mid-July, we're going to be picking back up with Profiler season 3. So that should be fun. And as predicted, Profile is going to take us through most of the rest of the year. Yeah. And I guess we're going to announce it now, since you're going to hear it in the Profiler episodes in August. We're probably doing Dexter next year.
Yeah.
There's so much Dexter to get through.
Somebody started watching
Thank God
Dexter
there's only
again.
12 episodes a season. Well, don't start watching Dexter again until we're actually talking about it.
No. But just my hairdresser said to me, I just started watching Dexter. And I said, Origins? She said, no, the original. Oh. Okay. And I'm going, no, we're going to start with Origins.
Yeah, we're gonna watch them in chronological order is our plan.
Yes.
Even though Origins is all a flashback he's having after he gets, shot or stabbed. I didn't watch it. In the Dexter epilogue. We are going to watch them in chronological order. So that should be a lot of fun. Yep. All right. It's like the people who watch Better Call Saul and then watch Breaking Bad. Same exact thing.
Yeah.
All right. So join us back here for that. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.
Have a good week.